Hi everyone! Recently, a few people have asked me whether I think this is the right time to buy Bitcoin, so I thought I would make a video explaining what I think and why. Of course, everyone should use this information only at their own risk, because I may be wrong about the bottom of this current cycle. The first method is a very simple comparison based on almost school-level math. The other two estimates come from my usual line-drawing graphical method. With these, I'm trying to estimate the possible bottom, whose timing I already discussed in my previous two videos, because in the end, if someone wants to invest or open a position, two pieces of information really matter: time and price. In my opinion, when it comes to longer-term investing, the timing is relatively easier to estimate, but exactly how deep Bitcoin can fall is always a huge question mark. Even well-known traders with years of experience and millions behind them cannot predict this with certainty. But let's look at the method. First, let's start with the simple math. After the 2013 cycle top, Bitcoin fell by roughly 87%. After the 2017 top, the drop was around 84%. And after the 2021 top, we saw a pullback of roughly 77%. These are not perfectly precise numbers, but in terms of scale, these are the values we can work with. If we simplify this a lot, we can see that the major bear market drops have been getting smaller. In other words, the depth of the drops first decreased by roughly 4.1 percentage points and then by 6.5 percentage points. If I continue this sequence, then the next decrease would theoretically be 8.9 percentage points. That would mean that by the end of the current cycle, Bitcoin would fall by 68.9% from its top. This would place the possible bottom somewhere around $39,000. But if the sequence does not continue, then the price could fall even lower. This is important to remember, so this estimate points more toward the upper range. Even so, as you can see, it still shows a much lower level than the current price. If you watch YouTube videos, listen to analysts, or even ask ChatGPT, you will often hear the $50,000 zone mentioned as a possible bottom, and this cannot be completely ignored, because if the crowd, retail investors, institutions, and nowadays even state-level players think that the $50,000 area is a good buying zone, then it is possible that something really will stop the fall there. And now let's see what my graphical method shows. For this estimate, I am only showing the last two cycles, because I think these are more relevant in terms of market movements shaped by larger investors. From the top of the 2021 cycle, I simply drew three projection lines. These run through the important resistance and support areas in the upper, middle, and lower price ranges. As I also showed in one of my previous videos, these lines point toward a predictable time period. But honestly, even without the timing, a possible investment range becomes fairly clear, together with its depth and timing. I did the same thing in the current cycle as well, slightly expanded and supplemented with projections from the previous cycle. As you can see, the target range has become much noisier, but even so, it mostly points toward the $39,000 zone. In my opinion, the reason for this noise is the same thing that caused confusion in the markets. Bitcoin fell too deep too quickly here, and then, perhaps as a reaction, rose too high in too steep of a move. This basically broke the classic bear flag structure. That is why, as you can see, I excluded this higher range from the projection with my red line. As a result, the projected price drop now points toward a deeper target zone. I started the next projection from much earlier, from 2019. This line also points lower, roughly toward the $36,000 to $37,000 zone. And I also have an extremely bearish projection. If we project these strange sudden breakdowns as well, then it predicts a range around $32,000. So the result is somewhere between $32,000 and $39,000. That is why I personally would not be surprised by a Bitcoin price around $36,000 either. At the same time, based on the calculation from my earlier video, if I assume that the bottom forms around the middle of October 2026, then a more unusual and more aggressive drop than before would have to happen by the end of the summer. So if someone is thinking long-term and has money to invest, then around $45,000 it may already be worth starting to buy. But this is still not financial advice. It is only my own line of thinking. However, anyone trying to juggle futures trading with, let's say, 50 times or 100 times leverage, like I sometimes do, has a pretty good chance that nothing will remain of their small amount of money. This also shows that with a lot of money, even an idiot can make money, but for broke people like us, actual skill would be needed. If someone has enough money to work with, then here is my final projection. For example, if someone bought around $40,000, then in my opinion, at the next major cycle top, sometime around September 2029, a Bitcoin price around $180,000 could be possible. That would mean roughly 300 to 400% profit. And this is still more of my pessimistic view. I hope it made sense to listen to all this rambling. And if it is any comfort, sometimes even I get tired of my own stupid talking.